All right. Nice to meet you.
Let's get black.
Okay, so let's start it off.
Okay.
How's your childhood? Where'd you grow up at?
Well, first of all, my name is King Rick. I am the leader of the original Black Panthers, with chapters all over America and 2 internationally. I've been a Panther since the age of 10 in Milwaukee, starting as a Panther Cub here. Uh, I was fed, bred, and educated at the table of the Panther here in Milwaukee, breakfast programs, Black history classes. Subsequently, joined the Black Panther militia as Commander Mike McGee, Senior's personal bodyguard in the early 90s, and now the leader of the original Black Panthers in 2020.
Okay, okay.
Raised in Milwaukee.
Raised in Milwaukee.
Raised in Milwaukee.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Originally, you were a gangster disciple. Can you explain the history of the gangster disciples and how they relate to the Black Panthers?
I was never a gangster disciple.
Really?
Never.
See, when I did my research, it said you were a gangster disciple. Never associated with them at all?
Never.
Ever?
Ever.
That's a theory. People tell me you were related to the gangster disciples too.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
When I grew up as a child, I was never allowed to join gangs and that kind of thing because the people in the neighborhood wouldn't allow me to.
Okay, but you were always associated with the Black Panthers though, right?
Since the age of 10, yes.
Since the age of 10. How did they come about?
Well, when I was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, the housing marches in Milwaukee started with Father James Groppy. And I was in the Head Start program. And I kept hearing the teachers and all the other people talking about Father Groppy and the housing marches and how they didn't agree with it. And they were using real derogatory racist comments. And I was a kid and I'm like thinking, that's not right. And the teachers were saying, well, you're not going to walk past the school building at a certain time. So I kept asking the teachers, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? And then when it got close to that time, I walked out of the classroom, down the stairs, and out the door. And as I walked out the door, the housing marchers were going by. And I participated in the housing march in Milwaukee at the age of 5. And I was always interested in our culture and our history and questioning why aren't there more black people on television? Why are there not more black doctors and lawyers and that kind of thing? So when I turned 10, my mother said, well, you know, there's this group here in Milwaukee called the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. So she took me to a breakfast program. It was right around the corner from here off of King Drive. So we went to a breakfast program. I walked in the building. I saw all these beautiful black men and women teaching children, feeding children, and I fell in love with it. So subsequently, I was going, if not daily, 3 or 4 times a week, getting fed in Black history classes. Subsequently, they called us Panther Cubs. And that's how I got inducted into the Black Panther Party. At the age of 10 as a Panther Cub. 47 years of my life, and I'm 57 right now.
Okay. So you were a Black Panther then. When did the Black Panthers fade away?
Well, as you know, the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense disbanded in the early 80s, 81, 82. And the Black Panther Militia came into effect in 1989 here in Milwaukee. So after the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense went away and then disbanded in 80, the Black Panther Militia began in 1989 here in Milwaukee under the leadership of Commander Mike McGee Sr., who was also an alderman in Milwaukee. And I was his personal bodyguard here, traveled across the country with him. And also I worked at City Hall with him too as a technical aide. So, yeah.
So at what point were you a teacher?
Well, I've always been a teacher. I taught French and physical education, and I was a successful high school basketball coach here in Milwaukee. Man, I retired early. Man, I've been teaching for a long time, brother. You know, when I was working at North Division, I worked at Keith Avenue. I worked at Seaford Elementary. I worked at Washington High School. I started out as a safety assistant in MPS. Went back to school. Subsequently got my degree. I have a master's degree in African American Studies and History.
And did you play basketball
Sure did.
overseas?
How you know that?
Because I did my research.
How you know that, Deacon? Yeah. I played basketball in Portugal and France. Yeah.
How long?
A year in Portugal and a year in France.
So what time you going to the NBA?
I got disinterested in basketball, so to speak. I was away from home. I just wanted to come home. You know, I came home and then I went to work at the Grand Avenue Mall. When it first opened up, way back when it first opened up, I was a security supervisor at the Grand Avenue.
At the Grand, huh?
Yeah. It's different now, though. Yeah, it's totally different now.
It is. Now, a lot of people think that the Black Panthers are the black version of the KKK. What's the difference?
The original Black Panthers and the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense are not a racist nor hate group. We are against racism. We are against oppression. We are against injustice. We are against inequality and police brutality. Those are the things that we are against. Now, when people try to compare us with the KKK, I say this to them. Name one time the original Black Panthers has blown up a church with 4 children. Name one time the Black Panthers have hung people from a tree because of the color of their skin. Name one time the original Black Panthers killed a child for looking at a white woman. Name one time we've done that. You can't, because there's no comparison. People would like to say we're some racist or hate group, and that's far from the truth. We are against those things. We service and help everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. We'll help you out if you need some help, but we got to protect our own first and help our own first. So when they say that, and I ask them to name one time, they can't. We haven't even, historically the KKK rolled down on African American people, hung us from trees, didn't allow us to vote, didn't allow us to walk down the street. Black Panthers have never done that, and you can't tell me any time in history that they have, because it simply doesn't exist.
So are white people allowed to join the Black Panthers?
They can support us. They can work with us, but they're not allowed to join. Historically, back in the early 70s, late 60s, there was a group called the White Panthers that was started by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals. So, but that was just a organization that wanted to help out. It's not like we're a racist or hate group. No, it's just that we're pro-black.
It makes sense. Now, I seen you go to a lot of doctor's office, local stores,
Mm-hmm.
beauty supply stores,
Mm-hmm.
What are they called? Convenience stores,
Mm-hmm. Gas stations,
police
stations, hospitals,
yep.
colleges.
Mm-hmm.
We do it all.
And get a lot of them shut down.
Yes.
What's your mindset walking into that situation, and what length would you go to serve the Black community?
Well, I'm here for the Black community. I would die for the Black community, but before I die for the Black community, I want to live for our community. That's what I want to do. Now, if anyone is a detriment to our community, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are a detriment and you are hurting, abusing, disrespecting our community, and we hear about it, we're going to challenge you. We're going to come shut you down. We're going to make sure that you're held accountable. We shut down politicians' meetings, City Hall. We shut that down. We shut down meetings where you've had billionaires there. We went to Bryan and Stratton and forced them to fire a coach who used the N-word to one of his students, one of his athletes. We did that, and let's see, we went to Children's Hospital, made them fire a doctor who threatened to lynch a Black employee. We went to the Brown Deer Police Department. I don't know if you remember when Manuel Burnley was shot in his back while laying on his stomach by a police officer. We went down there and forced her to resign. So we do a lot, not only shutting down stores and businesses, but we shut down everybody who's a detriment. Doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes we can be our worst enemy.
That is true.
I'm going to say this too. If Pookie and Ray Ray is shooting up the neighborhood, Pookie and Ray Ray ass need to go to jail. For real.
So another question. So what's the difference between black on black crime and white on black crime?
Well, you have to understand that black on black crime is racist and propaganda. It's crime. Because if you notice, America is the most segregated city in America. 85% of whites kill whites. 85% of Asians kill Asians. Just like 85% of blacks kill blacks. So it's not black on black crime. It's crime in general. People have that misnomer, and to say that is racist and propagandist. Even though we need to hold our own accountable, sure we do. Sure, we need to make sure we patrol our neighborhoods. We make sure that we take care of our children and help end the crime in our neighborhoods. But we also have to understand why the crime is in our neighborhoods, first and foremost. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the most racist and hyper-segregated city in America. If you notice, you have over $6 billion worth of infrastructure downtown and the Upper East Side. When you come into the black and brown community, what do you see? Crumbs. $6 billion compared to crumbs? No, that's unacceptable. And we refuse to accept that.
Why you say Milwaukee is the most segregated city?
Because it is.
Is that because of the way that it's divided? You know, you got the Masons on the south side, or is that?
Yeah, it's because Milwaukee is hyper segregated. It's always been hyper segregated. You've got certain areas where black people can't even live. You've got certain areas. I don't know if you've done your history on the state of Wisconsin, but the overwhelming majority of black people live in Milwaukee, within a 5-mile radius of where you're sitting right now. That's segregation at its best.
You also got some of the highest incarceration rates for black men.
Yep.
At one point in time, I think it was the highest, right?
Yeah, it's still the highest. At one point, it's still the highest, because if you notice, we get incarcerated 10 times more than our white counterparts for the same exact crime. And that's how Milwaukee is the most racist and hyper-segregated city in the country. You have to understand that in Milwaukee is a town where the mayors have always been white, except for when Marvin Pratt was interim mayor. The police chiefs have a history of violence against us. Oh yeah, Milwaukee's always been like that, but it's just been hidden. And now with the uptick in crime and with the uptick in racism, the uptick in oppression, the uptick in injustice and inequality and police brutality, Milwaukee's standing out for that. And at one point, we had the highest pregnancy rate for teenage black women, children in the country. And 53206 is the worst area code in the country. Straight here in Milwaukee, one of the poorest. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is one of the richest cities for white America, but it is the poorest for black and brown people. Now, is that segregation and racism? Oh, yeah.
It is. Okay, now I was going back and forth with somebody about holidays. So not to celebrate the 4th of July.
The 4th of July? I get that.
Christmas.
Pagan. Easter, pagan. They're all pagan holidays. Now, if you'll notice, the 4th of July celebrates independence, right? America's independence, 1776. The first black person killed in the Revolutionary War was a black man, Crispus Attucks. Okay? The first one. But were we free? No. Now in 2020, are we free? No. We're still mentally and physically enslaved. Slavery has just changed.
Holidays being a time for us to be with our family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you just not celebrate it? Do you think that it should just be completely...
The only holiday that I would ever want to celebrate is Kwanzaa. That's the only holiday I would ever truly want to celebrate. Juneteenth Day too, but Juneteenth Day is different in other cities and different in other states. These pagan holidays, that's cool if people want to celebrate that. That's what you do, but why can't we not celebrate without it being a holiday? Why can't we celebrate with our families and our friends anytime? I celebrate the birth of my children 24/7, not just on the day they were born. Every day, every minute, just like Mother's Day. We celebrate Mother's Day every minute, second, and hour of each and every day. Why would we just take one day to do that? And if you look at Black History Month, the shortest month in the year, you want to give it to us? No, we celebrate Black History 24/7, my brother.
I know you gave away stuff to kids.
We always do. For the last 5 years, we've been giving stuff away.
Why Kwanzaa?
Well, because Kwanzaa, do you know what the meaning of Kwanzaa is? First fruits of harvest. And the Nguzo Saba is the seven principles of Kwanzaa. That is something that was designed for us and by us. It celebrates our African heritage and the African roots, only with an American twist to it. Kwanzaa has the seven principles. So we celebrate one of those principles where we take children whose parents were murdered by violence in Milwaukee, and we give them $200 and we take them shopping. It's called the Carl F. Williams Kwanzaa Celebration, Shopping with the Panther. We also give away brand new athletic shoes, gym book bags, school supplies every year to children. Every year we do that. We do a Mother's Day event where we take mothers out to dinner. We give them a complete makeover. And those mothers are children who have lost. Who have lost children to violence in Milwaukee. We do a neighborhood cleanup every year where we take 50 or more children, give them $20, a Panther t-shirt, we feed them, and we clean up a major neighborhood. And also, we give away brand new winter coats, hats, scarves, and gloves every November. And this has been annual for the last 5 years.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the complete village is our family. That's our mantra. If we don't take care of each other, who will?
That is true. It's one question I did want to ask you. Now, I heard you talk about how we were captured.
Right. We were captives and turned into slaves.
Okay.
You've been doing your research, young brother.
I know. I've been doing a lot for a long time.
Okay.
On you specifically.
Okay.
Now, if we were captured, as a black man, I can imagine somebody coming into my house trying to capture my family. I would have to die before somebody did that. Mm-hmm. I would have to die. They would have to kill me, literally.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think in Africa we allow another race to capture us and bring us back without putting up some kind of resistance?
Some did put up a resistance. Some did. But back then, the captors had weapons of mass destruction. When you have guns and when you have other black people that are going to work with you to capture black people, that is a problem. And when slavery started, black folks really have never seen white people. They were amazed, you know. And granted, they came to Africa, captured us, turned us into slaves. Now, I'm going to fault the people who did that. I'm not going to fault the people who were the victims of it. I'm going to fault the people who did that. Because if we had to do it all over again, if we knew that then, what we know now, it would have never happened. But the captors were smart, and they did what they needed to do to make it happen.
So you think weapons were the main catalyst?
Weapons and turncoats. Weapons and traders. Because you really couldn't, you had African people working with the slave traders to capture African people. Just like today, you have federal informants, sellouts, all of that. It's the same exact principle.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. What economic development plan would you like to see in the impoverished communities?
I want to see a thriving economy for the black and brown community. When I say thriving, I mean jobs, I mean businesses. I mean putting money back in our community. When I say economic development, I want to see our schools be better. That's where economic development starts, in our education. Because the reason that crime is thriving in major urban cities is because the lack of economic development. When your community is thriving economically and your school systems are thriving, the crime rate drops. And that is a proven fact. But here in Milwaukee, they would much prefer us to be under their thumb, under their guidance. Well, they don't really care about us in Milwaukee. They don't truly care, but they might say that. But if you said that, then you wouldn't have $6 billion downtown. You'd have $6 billion in the impoverished black and brown community, too. That's where economic development starts at, in the impoverished communities. Jobs, companies, businesses with black and brown people. So we can spend money with black and brown people. We as African-American people spend over $1.5 trillion a year on goods and services. We make everybody else rich. Just think if we spent that money with each other. Our economy and our communities would be thriving. And in 3 years, we'd have 100 more millionaires in our community, 100 times more millionaires in our community. In 3 years, if we just spent all that money with each other, 1.5 trillion, that's power. Economics in America is power. If you notice, they care more about money than they do about life. Because if they didn't, the coronavirus wouldn't be as active as it is in the black and brown communities. It wouldn't. We have subpar health care, subpar education. If you drive around the inner city of Milwaukee or any urban city, you see blighted buildings, boarded up buildings. You see that. But in other affluent communities, you won't see that. Especially in the black and brown communities, you have an overwhelming congestion of tobacco, liquor stores all over our community. All over. You can go 1 block this way, liquor store. You go on King Drive, 2 blocks that way, liquor store. 1 block past that, tobacco store. You don't see that in other communities. It's a concentration. You go on 27th and Atkinson. On 4 of those corners, 3 of them sell liquor.
That is true.
Check it out.
In small little pockets, you just see one on every corner.
Every corner. And you don't see that in affluent communities because they don't allow it. You don't see that in the suburbs of Milwaukee because they don't allow it.
Now, I see you saying something about Blackout Day. So, would Blackout Day kind of go with what you said? And even if it did go with only spending money in the black community, we don't. Well, from my understanding, out here in Milwaukee, we don't necessarily own enough in order to truly have a Blackout Day. We don't own a power company, so we wouldn't use power.
No.
We don't own our own car company, so we couldn't drive cars.
No.
We don't own shoe company. I guess it is people doing shoes, but it's certain things that we need to survive.
Yeah, the Blackout Day was just to spend money with black people. And if we needed something on Blackout Day that a black person didn't own, then we just wouldn't purchase it that day. We would purchase it somewhere else. The Blackout Day was to show our power with economics and with money. That's what the Blackout Day was about. Now, just think, Milwaukee, let's take Milwaukee for example. There's not one black-owned grocery store, major grocery store. It used to be, but not anymore. Okay? Why is that? Because we allowed it to end. There are very few black businesses that are thriving in Milwaukee. There's a lot of pockets here and there, but major black businesses, no. That's what economic development comes in at. That's where it comes in at. We want to get black business owners, car dealers. We have one black-owned car dealer. We don't have any black-owned grocery stores. We don't have any black-owned strip malls. No. We have pockets here and there. We need to start spending our money in our community. We need to stop making everybody else rich and bring those dollars back in our community so it can circulate properly.
That is true. But then now if it is successful, if we're able to do that.
It's going to be successful.
Okay. So when it becomes successful and we are able to make that happen, we'll become another Black Wall Street and we'll be thriving and everything will be thriving and we'll be okay. What steps would you say we need to take for the result not to be as it was for the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as Chicago?
Well, you have to understand back then the times were differently. At the time of the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it was the first act of terrorism on American soil by Americans. They flew planes into Tulsa. They blew up people. They burned up buildings. They shot people. They hung people. They killed people. But now in America, that wouldn't happen because we wouldn't allow it to happen. Because we have a lot of intelligent, strong, educated young black men and women, older black men and women, our elders, and we have to learn from our past. And from the Wall Street, the Black Wall Street, we learn from that. And we will never let that happen again, but we also have to have financial literacy so we can make it happen again. That's where it all comes in at. Financial literacy is important for our community. You know, Black Wall Street was thriving. Thriving, when I say thriving. They had over 500 black businesses in one area. 500 black businesses thriving. But once again, America was angry. America was upset. They didn't want to see us thriving. And they destroyed it. It was an act of terrorism on American soil.
It was. I wonder what stopped them from having a revolution. And
do you know what the meaning of a revolution is?
Can you enlighten me on it?
I sure will. A revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government. That's what a revolution is.
Do you think we are in a revolution right now?
No, because nobody's forcibly overthrowing the government. It's a movement. There's a big difference.
What's the difference between revolution and a movement?
Revolution is violent.
Revolution is violent. So you think in order to overthrow the government, violence needs to be implemented?
It's going to happen eventually, because America was built on violence. America only responds to the act of violence or the threat of violence. I don't condone it. No. I will never condone violence. But I'm going to say if America wants to prevent it, then America needs to do something about it. Revolutions have been successful and revolutions have not been successful. But a revolution is a forcible overthrow of the government. Forcible. And when you force something, especially with government, you're going to have, unfortunately, you're going to have bloodshed, you're going to have violence. I'm going to give you a perfect example. When George Floyd got killed, we went to Minneapolis and spoke to tens of thousands of people. Then there were riots and insurrections all over America, not just in Milwaukee, all over. But people have to understand, when you have a riot or insurrection, there are no rules, regardless of what anybody says. People take advantage of that. It is what it is. You can replace businesses, but you cannot replace lives.
That is true. That is true. And then, another question for you, too.
Sure.
Willie D, he acknowledged what you did. How'd you feel about that?
I loved it. Willie D is a rap legend. I've done some bodyguard work for Willie D and the Ghetto Boys when they came to Milwaukee years ago. I met him. He's reached out to us. He likes what we did. D.L. Hughley even shared one of our videos. Everything that we do goes viral across the country in social media and across the world. We're known all over the world for what we do. And I appreciate when people acknowledge it. I'm truly humbled that they do. That lets me know that the original Black Panthers are doing what they're supposed to do. And subsequently, Willie D, I'm trying to get in contact with you. He reached out, said, somebody have him contact me, and I've been trying. So eventually that'll happen. But I do appreciate that. You know, D.L. Hughley said some things, and Dion Cole mentioned us. You know, we're well known. Every city that we go to, we always instantly get recognized. Every city. There's not one city that we have been at where we have not been recognized. I know you. I've seen you on social media. Yeah, okay. I appreciate that. Black power.
Now, you said you did bodyguard work for the
For a lot of people.
When they came here. What about Tupac? You ever did it for him?
No, but I worked a concert. And let me tell you about Tupac. His mother is Afeni Shakur. Okay? Daruba bin Wahad, Richard Moore, was a member of the Panther 21 with Afeni Shakur. Okay? Daruba bin Wahad was arrested by the government and placed in prison due to COINTELPRO. Then his term was overturned. And when he got out of prison, I ended up being his bodyguard in the Midwest. And we talked about Afeni Shakur and Tupac a lot.
Tupac actually came here.
And got in a fight.
And got chased out.
He was at the Hyatt Regency downtown. Yeah. Got into a fight. Milwaukee's no joke. Yeah. I remember that vividly.
Were you involved in it, or were you just... Okay.
No, I did. I worked at the concert.
Okay. Was that a crazy concert? I think he got they forced him off the stage too, didn't they?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
People think Milwaukee some little town. No. Milwaukee has a lot of attitude. It's that Milwaukee attitude. It's good and it's bad. It's a blessing and a curse.
For sure. You bodyguard for a lot of different people.
A lot of different people.
I know prominently here you bodyguarded for Mike McGee.
Senior, yes.
Mike McGee Sr.
I was his personal bodyguard, yes.
And I think Mike McGee Sr. had some type of pull in the Black Panthers themselves. Did he kind of start them back? Or?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 10, he was one of the first people I met at the breakfast program. He brought back the Panthers in Milwaukee, and because it started here in 1967 and got disbanded. But he and Brother Starks brought it back in 1972. 72. He was a member then. And then when it disbanded in 81 or 80, he decided to bring back the Black Panther militia here in Milwaukee.
Now, with you being his bodyguard, an incident happened in Wauwatosa with Mike McGee at the Blockbuster.
Junior, or that's Junior?
That is Junior. That is Junior.
That's
Okay.
Junior.
Okay. That is Junior. So his son got into it at Blockbuster. The police put a lot of force on him, and they actually put him in jail, and he ultimately ended up pleading no contest to it. Did you have any relation with his father when that happened, or how did y'all?
I've always had relations with his father. I was his personal bodyguard. I've known him since I was 10.
When that specific incident happened, did they have anything to say about that?
Well, I mean, Mike McGee Jr. was an alderman too. Yeah. He went to Wauwatosa, and Wauwatosa racially profiled people then, and they racially profile people now. Yeah. He was racially profiled
on that day.
I
wonder why he chose to plead no contest as opposed to not guilty.
I can't answer that question because I'm not him.
Yeah.
I respect the family. I'm close with the family. I'm close with Mike Jr. and I respect him wholeheartedly. So I can't question that. I don't know.
Okay. Now the Black Panthers. How can someone get in contact with you guys if they would like to join? Or
okay, well, in order to be a Panther, you have to have love, honor, and respect for your community, our community, and you can't be afraid to shake the trees and make the fruit fall. You have to be disciplined, dedicated, and determined. You got to have those 3 Ds to be a Panther. And if you'd like to join us, our telephone number is 414-366-0221. Once again, 414-366-0221. And Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the national headquarters of the original Black Panthers. And as I stated before, I'm the leader of the original Black Panthers with chapters all over America and internationally. Last week we had our summit here. We had 50 Panthers. We patrolled the streets. We shut down businesses. We had a summit. It was amazing. Amazing.
Okay. All right. I think that sums up the interview.
Okay, before we leave, I'd like to say this. Remember, take care of your community. Take care of yourself. Black is beautiful. Black to the future. And I'll be black. Power to the people.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey!